This is an LLD production.
Welcome to this episode of Owlia's Opinions, the new podcast in which we take a better look into the world we love, learn new things, and debate the toughest issues the world has in store. I am your host, Armon Owlia. I am a journalism student here at Drexel University in Philadelphia, and it is time to enter the new School of Thought. First of all, thank you everyone for listening into this week's show. There's only one quick update about the Old School Demon Show that I can give, which is that the Demon and I have nearly confirmed our very first guest for the show, which will be on January 19th. However, we will refrain from telling you until it is time. So I hope you've been keeping up with the clues. Other than that, there isn't really much more I can say at this point, so let's get to it. It is said in the book of Genesis that one of God's first tasks in the 6 days he took to create paradise was to separate the darkness from the light. However, what he did in nature, he neglected to do in humanity. Now, I could be mad about it, as it can be difficult to deal with the darkness in our lives. However, I am more than grateful, because without that separation, we would not have comedy, and in particular, we would not have the gifted entity and comedian simply known as Robin Williams. Robin had such a tremendous impact on my life. I remember growing up watching so many of his movies, such as Aladdin, Mrs. Doubtfire, Dead Poet Society, and of course Good Morning Vietnam, and immediately falling in love with his comedy style, one that was so explosive and energetic yet highly unpredictable. Something that could make you laugh no matter how depressed you were, only comparable to scientists working with unstable atoms to create the atomic bomb. And like the atomic bomb, Robin's comedy could be just as destructive, not only in his act, but also in his life. It was because of that destruction, the darkness that seemed to be on the horizon of his comedy, but not something we could truly stare in the face, that would cause him to take his own life in 2014 at the age of 63. Now, needless to say, I remember that day like it was yesterday, and I still find myself thinking about his life and legacy the further we get from his passing. So, when I heard that HBO came out with a documentary called Robin Williams Come Inside My Mind, I was immediately interested in watching it. I wanted to gain a deeper appreciation for the man and his craft, learn how he did it, figure out what drove him. It turns out, quite a lot. In fact, many things I thought I knew about this great man were shattered, as this allowed me to see Robin Williams as I had never seen him before. From beginning to end, the documentary delivered a great balance of Williams' comedic material with the darkness that had always been there, with a very orbital style of narrative, Robin being the son, the rest including Pam Dauber, his first wife Valerie Velarde, and British comedy legend Eric Idle, as the many planets touched by his warm yet destructive style. The presence of Robin was always there, evolving from minute to minute, the same way his comedic style did. And the soundtrack that kept evolving but still stuck to the main theme of the moment. You could feel his isolation, sense of reawakening, inspiration, all from the music alone. You could tell from his own short statements who he was, whether it be as a person, comedian, lover, addict, and father. Like his mind, it was never truly in one state, often hitting harder than his quick material. With each role that came to him, it changed him, and, like a caterpillar becoming a butterfly, helped him evolve. In the end, despite one moment that seemed to drag, this documentary was one that was consistent with his life. Dark, but lightened with insane and soul-cleansing humor. In fact, the further I went into the documentary, the more I missed him. What a testament to his legacy. As a writer, I would be remiss to not mention my favorite Robin Williams performance, his role as Professor John Keating in Dead Poets Society. He, in the movie, was a fountain of wisdom and knowledge. However, there was one piece of advice that has carried me forward. Carpe diem. Seize the day, boys. Well, I have, and thanks to this documentary, I believe that those who watch it will be able to learn how to seize the day too. Oh, Captain, my Captain. I hope to see you on the other side so that I may be hit by your explosive nature once more. Thank you, Robin, for everything. So what do you guys think? Do you agree or disagree? If so, please put a comment on www.lovelearndebate.com, go to the Love tab, and you'll find the article there. So we're now going to take a short break. When we come back after a performance by Trapped and Static, I will be talking about a scandal that seems one-dimensional, but really isn't. We'll be back after this.
Sacrifice, here comes the new blood.
So that was Born Again by Trapped and Static, and as a rock fan, this may be one of the best artists we've had so far on this show. In this one song, Trapped and Static has been able to mix together multiple genres. Techno, hard rock, and a slight hint of opera within the chorus. Plus, the melody and chorus themselves are so catchy. I found myself singing them for no reason a few times this week. Good song from a nice band. Again, the song and single is Born Again, available now on iTunes, Spotify, and SoundCloud. All links will be in the description. The 88th Academy Awards on February 28, 2016 was a historically significant night for the world of journalism. Why? Because of all the films it was up against, Spotlight, a movie based on true events of the Boston Globe Spotlight team's investigation of child sexual abuse and molestation, not only with the Archdiocese of Boston, but also eventually all across the world. As a result of this revelation, greater scrutiny has been placed on not only the Catholic Church, but also on Christianity in general, as the evidence showed that some of the highest numbers of the clergy, such as the Pope, were aware of what was going on. And again, as a result of the speculation, greater amounts of information has been put out, which can make pieces of news about this less surprising. However, certain headlines stand out over others, and in particular, one headline from the New York Times reawakened my interest in the subject. He preyed on men who wanted to be priests, then he became a cardinal. The article details the story of Cardinal Theodore E. McCarrick, who was removed from the ministry in New York after an investigation showed that he sexually abused a 16-year-old altar boy within New York in 1970. With his removal, he became the highest-ranking Catholic official to be removed due to a sexual assault of a minor. It seemed like a normal and typical case until I found out one thing that caught my eye. McCarrick also sexually abused multiple seminarians, and was reported multiple times without reprimand between 1994 and 2008, even with now Pope Emeritus Benedict XVI hearing about it. Now, the reason why this caught my eye was because of a quote from Spotlight, in which Sasha Pfeiffer, a reporter for the Boston Globe played by Rachel McAdams, interviewed Ronald Paquin, who claimed that he had, quote, fooled around with boys, but he never raped them. He supposedly knew the difference because he, too, was raped. After doing some digging, I found out that this particular part of the movie was correct. Paquin was, in fact, sexually abused at the age of 14 in 1957 by Reverend Bernard St. Hilaire. This got me thinking about how the practices by rogue priests could essentially condition trainees into pedophilia. However, this is a highly simplistic theory and should not grant much merit. There are things, however, I found interesting about the culture of the parishes, especially due to the celibacy requirement, with 50% of the clergy being celibate, and of that 50, 6% abusing children. As a result, the culture of secrecy between celibate and non-celibate essentially protects pedophiles from legal action. And in the case of legal action, there are members of the church who are able, with their influence, to sweep these events under the rug, with even greater scrutiny now. Now, this does not mean to say that the Catholic Church or Christianity as a whole is the only guilty party. In every religion, there are probably many members of the clergy who sexually abuse children. However, they aren't reported, so as a result, I cannot talk about that. However, what I'm trying to say is this. Don't always trust those at the top. You don't truly know what's going on in their bedrooms, and in the end, it could prove costly. Just look at what it did to the victims so far. So what did you guys think? Did you agree or disagree? If so, please put a comment on www.lovelanddebate.com, go to the Learn tab, and you'll find the article there. We are going to take a break. When we come back after this performance by Hunter and Wolfe, I'll talk about conflicts that have more than confused the public on what's true and what's not.
telephones and then you turn to tell me it was nothing. Oh, you're right this time. I'm coming home, but I'm not. I've been thinking about the things I've done. I've been thinking about what I've not done at all. And all the votes are sitting in my bed. I've been thinking that it's time I turn around. Forget all the lies and all of the times I was out.
And now, some final thoughts. A debate to start at the end of this program. It is the ultimate job of the journalist, whether it be as small and independent as myself, or as large and diverse as the New York Times or CNN, to not only present the facts to you, but also interpret it in a way that is understandable to the public. Now, there are moments in news that can be more confusing than others. Granted that many major news stories never break at once, with one story beginning the cycle, followed by many others. However, our job is to break through the gobbledygook and show you what's really going on behind the curtain. So, I'm going to attempt doing that by talking about a summit between the leaders of two of the world's greatest superpowers. Now, in this case, there's information that is certain and proven facts, and others that are not so clear-cut. So, I'll begin with the clear-cut information. The president of Russia, as many people know, is Vladimir Putin, who's been in power in one capacity or another since the resignation of Boris Yeltsin on New Year's Eve 1999. Over the course of almost 2 decades, Putin has risen to power, but with much scrutiny, as he has tried to bring Russia back to its glory days in the Soviet Union, with very severe consequences internationally. Some of these actions include the annexing of Crimea from Ukraine, during which a passenger plane was shot down by Russian forces, although he and the Russian government attempted to cover up the information. Another thing they did, as confirmed by American intelligence, was lead a Russian interference for the 2016 U.S. presidential election, hindering the campaigns of Hillary Clinton, Bernie Sanders, and Jill Stein, in order to not only assure a Donald Trump presidency, but also create political instability within the United States, enough to ensure that Russia could become a global superpower. Ever since the election and the proven Russian involvement, Donald Trump and his administration, sans intelligence officials, have long maintained that Russia was never involved, a claim believed by his supporters, as incorrect as it may be. However, that certainty within not only his followers but the world has changed within the course of 2 days, beginning on July 16th and ending for now on July 18th. On July 16th, President Trump and Putin held a joint news conference in Helsinki, among which were the proven claims that Russia had interfered in the American election, skewing the votes to Trump's favor, while Putin outright denied involvement, even going so far as to blame the Democrats. Trump, who had long been steadfast in Russia's lack of involvement, seemed less sure of himself now that the president of Russia was standing right next to him, deflecting the answer by saying, quote, "It's a shame that there can't even be a little bit of a cloud over it," referring to his election victory. For the first time ever, Donald Trump or any member of his administration showed doubt over the supposed quote-unquote truth that he had used, despite the fact that many fellow Republicans have outright disagreed with Trump and the administration, excluding his intelligence officials, referring to the investigations done within the U.S. government, as well as the word of the Director of National Intelligence. The next day, former President Barack Obama, giving a speech at the 16th annual Nelson Mandela Lecture to commemorate what would have been the former South African president's birthday, warned Trump of the dangers of, quote, strongman politics, saying, and I quote, whereby elections and some pretense of democracy are maintained, the form of it, but those in power seek to undermine every institution or norm that gives democracy meaning. Within hours of that speech, Trump, reading from a script, finally admitted to Russia being involved with election interference. However, it was clear that he truly did not believe it, claiming that there were, quote, two thoughts, again deflecting the illegitimacy with questions about Hillary Clinton's emails. And then, the next day, he was asked whether or not Putin was involved. Trump then personally and indirectly blamed Putin due to him being the president of Russia. It is clear that there is a he said, she said moment in Washington, as we hear multiple narratives. Now, the news has done a great job at capturing it all, but one thing is for sure. It is time for every politician in Washington to get on the same page, figure out the truth, stick with it, and show accountability for their actions. That is what adults do, and at the moment, no one in the Trump administration, sans intelligence officials, are acting like adults. If they don't start, they'll have another 2 years to look for a new line of work. What do you guys think? Do you agree or disagree? Either way, please go to www.lovelandDebate.com, click on the debate section, and respond, please. And while you're at it, don't forget to like us on Facebook by going to www.facebook.com/LoveLearnDebate and follow us on Twitter @LoveLearnDebate. Follow our Instagram page @LoveLearnDebate, and even subscribe to the podcast on SoundCloud or iTunes Podcast. My thanks to Omi Ladejani for the graphics and show soundtrack, Imogen Aiken and Hilary Lau for their tremendous generosity in lending their voices, and Trapped in Static and Hunter and Wolfe for their musical contributions. That's it for this week. I'll see you guys in 2 weeks ready to go. Thank you guys for listening, and until next time, keep loving, keep learning, keep debating. We'll see you next time on Olia's Opinions. Goodbye.
This has been an LLD production recorded in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania.